back to the Friday, January 24th edition of the Saints Insider Podcast. I'm Luke Johnson. I'm going to be hosting the show today. I'm joined by columnists Rod Walker and Jeff Duncan and my fellow beat writer Matthew Paris. We are doing this virtually because it's still kind of gross outside, and we don't want to Rod and I both live on the West Bank. I don't think either of us want to brave the Crescent City connection right now. And Jeff is just, being lazy and wanting to stay at home. So,
hey, man, I shoveled off my entire porch, sidewalk, and car the other day, man. I felt like Rocky Balboa after preparing for the Rocky fight.
You're so accomplished.
Yeah, I used a dust pan and a broom to do it. Obviously, I didn't have a snow shovel.
I was going to say, where did you get a shovel? But
it was a good workout. And
I still had one in my car. So
Matt and I, as native Midwesterners, find your experience very funny. Just like to remind everybody that the Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. Their banking decisions are actually made here in New Orleans by local bankers who know the community, take the time to know you. From small business to big business, home loans to bank anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. Learn more at bankplus.net, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Somebody who's not going to be meeting local bankers here in New Orleans is Pete Carroll, who moments before we hit record on this podcast agreed to become the Las Vegas Raiders head coach. He's somebody who I don't think any of us were expecting the Saints to really to make a move on. He wasn't included on their list of interviews. But this does leave the Saints as one of two teams that have not filled their coaching vacancy. The other being the Dallas Cowboys, who very well might have a hire by the end of the day, by the end of the weekend. They've been rumored to be kind of coming close with Brian Schottenheimer. So, guys, now that the Raiders have filled their vacancy late last night, Liam Cohen, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers former offensive coordinator, joined the Jacksonville Jaguars as their head coach. You guys think the Saints will be the last team to hire one? Start with you, Rob.
I think they probably will, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I think, everybody who they really want outside of maybe Aaron Glenn is still on the table. So I do think the Cowboys are, we saw the reports of Schottenheimer yesterday, I guess. So if they complete that deal and, the Saints still got, everybody who they want. So I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, the only question now is, of the candidates remaining, do they want the Saints? Does McCarthy want this job or Joe Brady? We saw temporarily with Liam Cohen before he backed out of that. He was going to stay in Tampa before Jacksonville made him an offer he couldn't refuse. So the candidates still have
hiring their GM.
Yeah,
that was the offer he couldn't refuse. They're like, okay, fine, we'll get rid of Trent Baalke.
And so, I don't have any belief that the candidates would pull out at this point, but it's just something to keep an eye on, just because of how this week has unfolded. And we saw Aaron Glenn choose the Jets over the Saints.
And this is how the Saints operate. I mean, for better or worse, this is Mickey Loomis's MO, right? I mean, look how long he took a year ago to hire Clint Kubiak. I mean, he interviewed several candidates over weeks of time before he settled on that. He's very, whatever you want to say, he's very thorough and methodical in how he approaches these coaching searches. And I think Rod's right. I mean, there's some guys that they obviously still want to talk to that are preparing for the biggest game of their lives. So makes sense for this thing to still be open at this juncture.
I absolutely think the Saints are going to be last, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll get into what the what is still on the table for them next. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Stick with us. We'll be back in about a minute to dive further into the Saints coaching search, and then we'll talk a little bit about championship weekend in the NFL. So stay tuned.
Nice bike.
Thanks. Can I get it back before Saturday?
That might be tough.
Whoa. Is it just you?
For now, let's take a look.
Can you reach that? How about you get it?
welcome back, guys. Let's talk about the last little bit of this coaching search here. The Saints were supposed to have several candidates in during the middle of this week. Obviously, the snowstorm really affected travel plans. I don't know about you guys. I have not left my neighborhood since Tuesday. So yeah, I think they're going to be interviewing. Matt, is it Mike Kafka today and Anthony Weaver tomorrow, Friday and Saturday?
I actually maybe think that's reversed, but
okay, yeah, those two candidates are interviewing the next 2 days, and then next week they're supposed to be interviewing Mike McCarthy, and then remind me, Matt, since you're very on top of this, outside of not knowing the last one, when can they interview Joe Brady?
Starting Monday.
Win or lose, right?
Starting Monday, and then they have until the 2nd, I believe. Once February 3rd comes for the teams in the Super Bowl, then it's no contact again until the 10th.
So win or lose, they can interview Joe Brady in person next week, and if they decide to go that route and they don't make a hire by then, and then it drags on to the Super Bowl, we probably have a pretty good idea of who they're targeting as their next head coach. But we'll see. So, guys, this segment is proudly sponsored by Associated Grocers. Join our team and help support the success of local independent retail grocers. Apply today for available positions at Associated Grocers. So, look, I think we discussed this last time. Both Mike Kafka and Anthony Weaver in-person interviews will satisfy the Rooney Rule requirements. Matt has let me know here it's Weaver Friday and Kafka Saturday. So once those interviews are completed, the Saints will be able to hire a head coach. They could not do it right now before both of those interviews are done. So we're looking at 4 definite candidates. They've also been tied to Kellen Moore, who they interviewed virtually, who may be once again left out of the hiring cycle if Dallas decides to go with Brian Schottenheimer. And then I think I guess you could call Cliff Kingsbury still a wild card. His team is playing in the NFC Championship this weekend, and he's kind of hinted that he doesn't want to be a head coach next year. He wants to do another year as an offensive coordinator, but I think things can change, as we saw with Liam Cohen. So, guys, long preamble there, but where do you kind of see this thing playing out? How would you want to see it play out? Where do you think it'll play out? Let's kind of leave it open-ended. We'll start with you, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's kind of telling they waited until last to speak to McCarthy, at least the first time around. Maybe Joe Brady will be last technically, but I don't know. It feels like they were kind of wanting to talk to everyone first and then see what McCarthy had to do. And I just think he makes the most sense for them, unless they really wanted to go the young and up-and-coming route. But I just think where this team is right now, I think McCarthy makes a lot of sense. He has history with Mickey Loomis. He can raise the floor of a lot of teams, which this team needs. And so I would lean McCarthy, I think.
For me,
Jeff, we'll go with Rod because I know what Jeff is going to say.
I think I said the same thing Wednesday. I think, if McCarthy wants his job, I think it's his job. I just think kind of like what Matt said. I mean, the familiarity and just the experience as a head coach, I think that's the direction they go in. I mean, this is a team that likes to be comfortable with who they hire. So I put, if I was ranking them in order of how I think this will go, I think I'd probably go McCarthy first, Joe Brady second, and Dan Rizzi third. That's kind of the pecking order for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I did leave Rizzi out a second ago. He definitely should not be out of the consideration here. He's still a viable candidate for this job. They don't have to go outside the building. I know there's probably a lot of people in the fan base who would disagree with that, but I think Rizzi has just as good a chance as a lot of the people they're interviewing. Looks like we kind of lost Jeff here. I know he's been dealing with some connection issues after the storm coming through this weekend. So go with just the 3 of us for now. I think I agree with both you guys. I think if I were handicapping it right now, it'd be be pretty clearly Mike McCarthy's in the lead as long as the interest is reciprocated. Right? If Mike McCarthy wants to coach in 2024, I mean, it's basically like this is going to be his only option. I'm sorry, in 2025. I don't think he's going to be going back to the Cowboys because he didn't get a job offer anywhere else. Although, I think that's definitely not completely out of the realm of possibility. But if that's what it ends up being, I mean, not bad place to be. If you're the Saints, you're the last team hiring a head coach, and you got somebody with, career 610 winning percentage and in 18 seasons as a head coach. Somebody who's won a Super Bowl. Somebody who's coached in 22 playoff games. It could be a lot worse. I think the floor would be very, very high for the organization there. But we'll see. We'll see if that's the direction they want to take. I mean, the Saints might want to go young. They might want to go with somebody like Anthony Weaver if they think he could build something kind of like he experienced with the Baltimore Ravens. There's a lot of different ways this can go, but I think this is kind of an interesting tack they're going to take here. We'll see what
I think the fact that they're going to be one of the last two teams to hire and to have these kind of decent options on the table. I mean, I think that's good for this team, though. I mean, it could be a whole lot worse than this, choosing from. So
yeah. And look, I mean, I think it benefited them that the Jaguars really wanted Liam Cohen. They didn't touch Joe Brady, that was another candidate they wanted. I think it benefited them that Ben Johnson was interested in the Bears, and the Bears didn't therefore go after Mike McCarthy. I think there's a lot of ways this has played out well for the Saints. Jeff, might as well ask. All right, Jeff, we got you. He's back. Okay. So, we all kind of feel just filling you in on what you missed here. We all feel like McCarthy has got to be the favorite as long as he's interested in the job. What's your kind of sense on this?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear what Mickey Loomis have to say about it. Obviously he's not going to play those cards right now. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like we talked about this before on the podcast, right? Like, what you're getting with Mike McCarthy. He's an established head coach in the NFL, but I just don't know if the organization is really wanting to start a new chapter with a fresh approach of, say, like a Joe Brady or a young rising star. I mean, Luke, you talked about that on the podcast about how there's a really high ceiling with the Joe Brady, but there's obviously a high floor too. So I think clearly Joe Brady would be a guy that I would want to look at if I were them, along with Mike McCarthy. But I mean, Mike McCarthy is established. He's one of the most successful head coaches in the NFL. Would make sense to me, especially with his connection to Mickey Loomis and others in the organization. But I'm still wondering if they got their eyes set on maybe one of these next Sean Payton types like a Joe Brady.
Yeah, I think that's the big question, right? Is what are the Saints looking for out of this? I think it's telling to me just the way that the organization has operated, just in the last couple of years, even, but really throughout its history. This is an organization that expects to win and win right now, right? Even maybe talking itself into that as when a lot of other people see it as kind of a fallacy with the way the roster is built. If that's indeed the way they're looking at it, like you got to think that McCarthy is a really viable candidate there, right? Because of his history and the fact that he doesn't have very many losing seasons on his ledger. But like I'm with you, Jeff. If they do feel the need to take a home run swing, I don't think McCarthy's necessarily that guy.
Yeah, look, and I think we talked about before, though, right? I mean, Mike could probably bring in, because he's coached so long in the league, he probably already have a ready-made list of assistants that he could bring in. That's the only thing that would worry me a little bit about them taking so long is a lot of the top assistants on the market start getting snatched up. Because, look, they're desperate. They want jobs. They're going to want to land somewhere. So you do kind of run that risk of, can you put together a quality staff in year one if you're the last opening standing? And that's what it definitely looks like it's going to happen. But Mike would be able, I think, to circumvent a little bit of that just because he's coached in the league a long time. I have no idea like what kind of staff Joe Brady could put together. It'd be interesting to obviously find out.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's kind of move on a little bit and talk about the championship weekend. Once again, that segment was brought to you by Associated Grocers. If you're looking to join a team dedicated to supporting independent retail grocers, apply today. Your future starts here. Let's talk about the AFC title game here, and I think this one is going to be fun for Saints fans to watch because they're going to see if it's either Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen representing the AFC in the Super Bowl here in New Orleans, and B, I mean, it might be the Saints' next head coach up in the press box calling plays. So let's kind of talk about this. What are you kind of looking for out of this game in particular? Especially with Joe Brady in this offense. Matt, you want to take us away here?
Yeah, I think it's been very impressive how they've reinvented their offense a little bit in terms of getting like James Cook going. They rely a lot more on the run. I think they don't have the best receivers in the world, but it's been interesting how they've schemed guys open. Like I feel like Curtis Samuel is we don't have the bell here, but is now the player that Washington originally envisioned him to be when he played for them the last few seasons. Kind of a gadget, good for a big play every once in a while type player. Keon Coleman's had an impressive rookie year, and so Josh Allen is going to be good no matter what. I think that's just where he's at this stage of his career. But you need a coordinator who plays to your players' strengths, and that's kind of what Joe Brady has done, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Just the receiving talent there is good, not great. I think Khalil Shakir is probably their best wideout, and yeah, he's a very good player. But like it's not like he's got AJ Brown and Devontae Smith out there like the Eagles do, or even Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed the way the Saints do. So I think I agree with that. James Cook ran for like 16 touchdowns this year, something like that. So impressive offense. Rob, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say for me, I'm probably not going to make as much out of it as everybody else because I'm just one of those guys that think your offensive coordinator is only as good as the quarterback. And I think unless the Saints are getting Josh Allen somehow, I don't know if I just read too much into it. I think Josh Allen is really, really good. I mean, he's probably like, to me, him and Lamar, they've obviously had the best seasons. But, I mean, I just, I think if you have a quarterback like that, I think it can make a offensive coordinator look really good. I mean, we saw what Joe Brady did with Joe Burrow. We also saw what he did in Carolina, and it was kind of on the other side. So I'm probably not looking too much into it.
I'd say this. I mean, I don't know how you all feel. I don't know if we're going to make picks on the game or not, but I just feel like Buffalo has probably been working all year for this game. This exact matchup. I mean, they've lost on this field in this same scenario to the Chiefs. I mean, this is going to be, I think, their Appomattox. This is going to be their biggest game of their franchise probably since they were in all those Super Bowls back in the day. I think they're going to be hard to deny. I know I've always been picking against the Chiefs the last few years, and they burned me, but they just seem to have like an eye of the tiger. And I know they kind of were lucky to beat Baltimore, but I just think they've been pointing to this game for a while, and I think they're going to finally break through.
All right, I think I agree with you, Jeff. But we'll get to our predictions a little bit later. Let's switch gears and talk about the NFC title game. The Fighting Matt Paris's against the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of actual like local connections here. Obviously, the Saints have been connected to both of those offensive coordinators for both teams. Although I think they've only interviewed Kellen Moore, the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator. We've got Jayden Daniels, the former LSU quarterback. You've got Marshawn Lattimore, who the Saints traded to the Washington Commanders midseason. On the Eagles side, you got Zach Bond, who's an all-pro linebacker, his first year away from the Saints, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who I'm sure a lot of people have strong opinions about one way or another. So a lot of local ties to this game. What are you guys kind of what's like your biggest thing you're looking out for in this one? We'll start with you, Jeff.
Well, I want to see if they can replicate that magic, they being the Commanders, 2 weeks in a row. I mean, didn't they just beat the Eagles like late in the season, right, Matt? I mean,
They
in
did,
Washington.
but Jalen Hurts went out with a concussion like midway through the game. So
Yeah, I mean,
factor.
I have to say, look, I'm the first to say I didn't think the Commanders would be going this far. I mean, I'm just keep picking against them, and I was as wrong as I've been on picking the Saints this year during the season. So, but I do think the Eagles are going to be very difficult on their home field in this game. But Daniels gives them a puncher's chance. I mean, he's playing at such a high level. And I thought it was interesting listening to Cliff Kingsbury this week talk about Jayden and how he's this totally dedicated, nerd as far as preparation. And I don't think a lot of people knew that about him. The people at LSU certainly did. But that's, I think, been the key for him. It's all what he's doing from Monday to Sunday that I think puts him in position to play with that poise and that confidence. And that's a credit to him. I mean, he uses that same virtual reality technology that he had at LSU with Jack Marucci and that group. They bought it in Washington because he believes in it so much. And I think it's a big part. Jayden Daniels will say it's a big part of why he's been so successful at reading coverages and kind of staying ahead of the game. So I don't put it past the Commanders, but I just got a feeling the Eagles are going to put it to them running the ball. I was not that impressed with Washington when they played here. I mean, they almost lost to the Saints, for goodness sake.
So did the Eagles.
Yeah, that's true. But I just feel like early in the year, they were kind of finding the way. I think late in the season, I was just shocked at how shaky the Commanders' secondary was, but they played their best game of the year probably against the Lions a week ago. So we'll see how it plays out, but I'll pick the Eagles later.
What are you thinking, Rod?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing, Lattimore. I think that last game was one he kind of struggled against the Commanders. He did have 3 pass breakups, but I mean, he had a hard time with A.J. Brown. And so, yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing him. And also with Chauncey, I mean, he's one of those guys, man, he just has a nose for the football, and sometimes the ball just happens to find him. And, I just think him in New Orleans for the Super Bowl would be, quite entertaining. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say. Either way, I mean, you get him in New Orleans, where Marshawn won't have a lot to say, but, it'll be big for both of those guys, or even Zach Bond, just to get a chance to, come back to the city where their careers kind of started.
Yeah, the last time these two teams played, it was Zach Bond who gave up the game-losing touchdown. They put Jamison Crowder over him, and Bond messed that up. So that'll be interesting to see how he adjusts this time around. But I'm going to focus more on Jayden. I mean, the guy's had an incredible rookie season. Jeff, you mentioned the VR stuff, which is huge, but just for what it means for Washington to even be in this spot is just really something, and it shows the difference a quarterback make. But he's also just not a normal rookie quarterback. I mean, he's arguably having the best rookie season of all time across maybe any sport. He's having that good of a year, and he's so poised, he's so clutch, and if this game is close, it's hard to pick against him. I think I'll ruin my pick like Jeff did. I'm going to pick the Commanders. I've bought in.
All right, so Matt, I'm just curious, like, as somebody who lived in DMV for 7 years, what would a Commanders trip to the Super Bowl look like there, and what kind of presence do you think we see from that fan base down here?
Yeah, I mean, it has really, that fan base was a sleeping giant like the whole time. I mean, like the atmosphere at games was really dead for a lot of the time because they just knew under Dan Snyder they weren't going anywhere. But given their history, given the Super Bowls that they had won previously, you knew that area was always going to support a winner or a team that they can rally behind. And I think that's what has really been special about this Commander season is it really has felt different. They've been able to win fans back. And I just think, I still follow a bunch of people and you can just see the excitement. I mean, there were like buses of Washington fans to Philadelphia today, and that's normally the other way. Is normally those games are known for Philly fans invading FedEx Field and all that stuff. So that fan base is bought in, but they were just really waiting for a winner. And I think Josh Harris, since buying the team, has delivered that now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think, look, obviously getting the quarterback is the number one thing in this league, but got to give credit to Dan Quinn. I think Adam Peters, the new GM, that was a great hire. Seems like this draft has been very good for him. You would know better than me, Matt, but I mean, Santa still had a huge game in the playoffs a week ago. I think Johnny Newton's been playing very well for them, so they had a good draft. Brandon Coleman.
I think the starting left tackle is Brandon Coleman.
They got their starting left tackle in the mid rounds, third round, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like they've done it, and they've kind of peppered in a few of the veteran guys in free agency to kind of stoke the leadership there. I just think they've done a really good job of building that team, and they're believing right now. But it all starts with Daniels, right? You get the quarterback, and the guy. I think the other thing that kind of is in educational, this Final Four, if you will, and this has been going on for certainly longer than this year, but it does kind of emphasize the point of you have to have a mobile quarterback to some degree. And all four of these guys can make plays with their legs, extend drives, and make something happen when the play breaks down. And I know that's been going on in the league for a while now, but it really does hit home. Unless you're like a Drew Brees, brilliant at executing the offense out of the pocket, you almost in this day and age have to have somebody who can run.
Well, I'm going to echo what a couple of you guys said. I'm really looking forward just to watch Jayden Daniels in this. It's not because I'm an LSU grad. I think he's been a fantastic rookie quarterback, one of the best we've ever seen. I think if they do win this game, he'd be the first rookie to start a Super Bowl. If I'm not mistaken. Correct. Yeah, he's just a tremendous story this year. I think he's been so much fun to watch, and especially with the style of play these Commanders have, where it seems like every game goes down to the wire. I'm sure Matt, while he would have liked to have covered a team that won a lot of games this year, is probably happy he's not writing a bunch of game stories that switch in the last 30 seconds of the game. Okay, let's do a quick prediction for championship weekend here in the NFL. I don't know if these odds are current, but I see the Philadelphia Eagles as a 6-point favorite at home against Washington Commanders. I see the Kansas City Chiefs as a 1.5-point road favorite against the Buffalo Bills. So let's start with the AFC. Rod, who you got in this one?
I am going with Buffalo. I'm kind of echoing somewhat, Jeff. I just kind of think this might be their year. I mean, before the season started, I thought it would be the Ravens, but I think Buffalo winning that game. I think this is just Josh Allen's time to finally get over this hump and beat the Chiefs. So I'm picking Buffalo.
And Zach just reminded me that the Chiefs are the number one seed. They are the 1.5-point home favorite. Games in Kansas City this weekend. So Rod, you're going Buffalo. Jeff, who you got?
Yeah, look, I'm going Buffalo. I definitely think they seem like they're on a mission. I don't know if that's silly, intangible, but they just feel like they've been pointing to this game for a long time, and I think they'd be hard to deny. And I know the Chiefs are almost impossible to beat at home, and that's going to be incredible. Both places should be incredible environments. I haven't seen, guys, have you all seen, is there weather supposed to be a factor? I know it's going to be cold, obviously, in both places, but both outdoor games, anything weather-wise to be concerned about?
I haven't looked at the forecasts in Kansas City and Philadelphia. I just all right. Our local betting expert Zach Ewing, who's producing the show, is reminding us in the chat that there is no weather. He is probably well aware of this and has been for a couple of days. So no weather, Jeff. Does that impact your choice here?
I can't remember. Matt, you might know this, but I know for a fact. Obviously, we just saw the Eagles and Chiefs in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But it's been a while for Buffalo and Washington's. I mean, right, a couple of decades at least.
For both 30 years at least for both.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't alive the last time Washington made the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, so that speaks to kind of what's on the line for these two franchises. So give me Buffalo in the AFC.
I like Kansas City in this game. I think they're going to three-peat. I mean, I just thought before the year, I know they haven't played their best football, but they're still 15-2 to close the regular season. One of those losses was just like all right, you can have this one to the Broncos. They find ways to win, and they're probably going to win, and Patrick Mahomes is probably going to throw 200 yards, and Travis Kelce will have like 150 of those, and they'll just pull it out, and we'll say the same at the Super Bowl, too, when they do it again. It's just crazy how they're able to win all these games, but I'm not picking against them until they actually lose.
Yeah, nothing against the Kansas City Chiefs and their faithful, but my head tells me the Chiefs are going to win this because every time I've tried to pick against them in the past, I just look like an idiot. My heart wants the Bills to win this because I just desperately want to see how crazy Buffalo fans will get in New Orleans. I think I'm picking the Chiefs, but I won't be mad if I get to cover the Bills in the Super Bowl. I think that'd be fun. Okay, let's switch to the NFC. All right, we've got a couple of these picks in from everybody already, but I want to hear some justification. So, Matt, why do you think the Commanders are going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl?
I just think it's one of those teams, the team of destiny or whatever. Like, Jayden Daniels has made all the difference there. Philadelphia's passing offense has not been very good, and I know Washington's run defense is really bad, so maybe they won't need it. But I think that's maybe going to cost them. But I really just think it's Washington's juju. I mean, that's not expert X's and O's, but I don't really think you need it. And Terry McLaurin has had a fantastic season, and he's come up big time and time again, and I think he's going to have another big catch.
Scarence Terrence. Okay. Jeff, what do you got for the NFC?
Yeah, I'm going to go against the Commanders again and probably get burned. But I just like Philadelphia to kind of wear them down with their running game and make a few plays. Look, their defense, though, Matt's right. I mean, their defense is a little shaky in some areas. I know they tried to bolster the back end, but if they don't get pass rush, it could be trouble for them. But I think if they get after Washington up front with that defensive front, which we've seen, I mean, we saw here in New Orleans. I mean, when they turn it up, they got a lot of high draft picks up there. They're very difficult. If they get pressure on Daniels and kind of keep him somewhat bottled up, I know that's easier said than done. I think they win and finally get here to New Orleans.
Rod?
Yeah, you talked about Bills Mafia being in New Orleans. What about Matt Patterson in New Orleans with Washington? This is going to be it's going to be unbearable, man.
Oh yeah,
unbearable.
I had Baltimore and the Eagles, coming to the season. I'm gonna stick with the Eagles, although I am a little concerned that with Jalen Hurts' injury, like I haven't really looked at the practice reports this week. I don't know how well he's doing.
He's been full he was full yesterday. He was limited on Wednesday.
Yeah, so I'm a little concerned about that because I mean, if you take away some of his mobility, I think that can be a problem. And I mean, this is two division opponents, so they're very familiar with each other. I think that kind of sets up well for Washington too. Just the fact that they're really familiar with this team. But I'm going to stick with Philadelphia, so I'm going with Philadelphia and the Bills Super Bowl.
Yeah, I also think Philly's going to win this game. I will say that if Washington is able to recreate any of what they showed in the divisional round, where they were so explosive offensively, if they're able to get off to a fast start like that against this team, I think they have a really, really, really good chance to win because Philly's most dangerous when it can just kind of unleash this rushing attack. Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. And obviously they've got some really excellent pass catchers in this offense, but they haven't been able to get it going. It's kind of concerning if you can't get A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley as a pass catcher going. That speaks to some big problems with that passing attack. So I think Philly's going to win this one. But like if Washington's able to get out to a 10, 14-point lead early in this game, which is definitely possible, I think Philly's in a lot of troubles. I think they'd have a hard time battling back from that. So that means we've got 3 different opinions on who's going to be in the Super Bowl among the 4 of us. Rod and Jeff both have Philadelphia and Buffalo. I have Philadelphia and Kansas City, a rematch of what would that be, Super Bowl 57. And Matt has Washington and Kansas City. So we'll see. I think for me, the most fun Super Bowl that I can imagine would be Washington and Buffalo out of this thing. But Philly and Buffalo's fan bases together in the same place would be kind of crazy too. So,
which Super Bowl do we not have?
What's that?
Which?
We don't have a
Kansas
City and Washington
and Buffalo matchup. That's the one we don't have.
Washington and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be a rematch of Super Bowl.
One of the ones that Buffalo lost. Yeah.
One of the 4 that they lost in a row.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll see what happens. It's Super Bowl 26. Thank you, Zach, the producer in the back there. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be fun on Sunday. It's going to be a lot more fun than it normally is for people in New Orleans to watch this game, just to see who ends up coming here. So let's go. Let's get ready for this. And who knows? Maybe before either the AFC or NFC representatives make it to New Orleans, maybe the Saints will have a new coach. So we'll be back next week to talk about the weekend that was, interviews that have taken place for the Saints head coaching job, the Super Bowl representatives. A lot of stuff to talk about next week, but we're going to do it next week. So we appreciate you guys for sitting in and listening to us jabber on about the Saints in the NFL. I'm Luke Johnson. I've been joined by Rod Walker, Jeff Duncan, and Matthew Paris. Our good friend Zach Ewing has been producing this from Baton Rouge. We appreciate y'all, and thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you all next week.